Nearly half of everything produced, earned, or spent in this country ends up in government hands. In 2024, the total tax revenue collected by all levels of government in Canada amounted to over $1 trillion. When you factor in additional fees, levies, and non-tax revenues, this pushes the total to $1.2 trillion. That's 45% of our entire $2.7 trillion GDP. This puts us in the running as one of the most taxed nations in the world. But what do we get in return? We spend $350 billion on healthcare, which is supposed to keep us alive, while 74,000 Canadians have actually died on waiting lists since 2018. Hospitals are overrun, doctors are leaving, and bureaucrats are cashing in six-figure paychecks while you wait 6 months for an MRI. $120 billion goes to education, but half of grade 9s fail math, and universities have to offer remedial courses because high school graduates can't write a coherent sentence. Schools focus more on ideology than actual education, and now 1 in 4 adults struggles with basic literacy. We burn $150 billion on public sector salaries and pensions, which saw a $40 billion increase under Trudeau. So while the private sector suffers, public servants get raises, pensions, and benefits, yet somehow we also get worse service. Infrastructure lands around $50 billion, half of which is eaten up by consultants and bureaucrats, while our roads are still full of holes. As for the military, a pathetic $30 billion. Soldiers are using outdated gear while Trudeau lectures the world about defense. We drop nearly $200 billion into social programs and give away another $50 billion in economic handouts, also known as corporate welfare and green subsidies. We drop nearly $10 billion into foreign aid, most of which ends up under the climate change, feminism, LGBTQ umbrella. We spend $40 billion on justice and public safety, yet we can't secure our own borders, and violent crime is now higher per capita in Canada than the United States. Despite over $30 billion going to Indigenous communities every year, many still don't have clean drinking water, with nearly 30 long-term drinking water advisories still in effect across 26 First Nations communities in Canada. Government operations and overhead eats up another $60 billion, which when you dig deeper you realize is just a black hole of corruption. $85 billion goes to debt interest alone, more than we spend on the military and infrastructure combined. While the last $50 billion goes to odds and ends like $1.4 billion to the CBC, $3 billion to climate plans, billions in tourism and agriculture, leaving $25 billion aside as a rainy day slush fund. All this, yet somehow our Liberal government still ran a $62 billion deficit this year alone. Despite record tax revenue, life in Canada is more expensive, less efficient, and worse for the average person. You're paying more to the government than you spend on housing, food, and clothing combined. The average family forks over $47,000 a year, or 43% of their income, to taxes, which means you work until June 5th before reaching your tax freedom day and finally start earning for yourself. Meanwhile, crime is up, poverty is up, bankruptcies are up, and the cost of living for a family of 4 outpaces their average take-home income when factoring in servicing debt. It seems the more our government takes, the less we actually get in return. So once again, I will leave you with this quote from Friedrich Nietzsche to summarize how I feel. Everything the state says is a lie, and everything it has, it is stolen.